Jiwon pressed her face against the small window of the transport ship. Stars filled the darkness like tiny diamonds. She had dreamed of this moment for years. Today, she would step onto Galactic Council Station Omega-7. Today, humanity would meet the galaxy. The transport ship moved closer to the massive station. Jiwon could see other ships from dozens of different worlds. Some looked like metal birds. Others were perfect spheres that glowed with soft light. A few appeared to be made of living crystal that changed colors as they moved. "First time seeing alien ships?" asked Minho. He sat across from her, his security uniform neat and clean. His dark eyes watched everything carefully. That was his job. Keep the human team safe. "Yes," Jiwon said. "I still can't believe we're really here." The station grew larger as they approached. It was huge, bigger than any city on Earth. Towers twisted up like metal trees. Bridges connected different sections. Lights blinked in patterns that meant nothing to human eyes. "Remember," said Dr. Chen, the team leader, "we are guests here. We must be respectful. This is our chance to show the galaxy that humans can work with other species." Jiwon nodded. She was a xenobiologist. Her job was to study alien life forms. The station had a special research center filled with creatures from across the galaxy, apex predators from dozens of worlds. The strongest, fastest, most dangerous hunters ever discovered. The transport ship docked with a soft bump. Jiwon's heart beat faster. Through the airlock came a hiss of air that smelled different. Not bad, just alien. The doors opened. 3 beings waited for them. The first looked like a giant insect walking on 2 legs. Its skin was green and shiny like a beetle. Multiple eyes watched them from a triangular head. "Welcome, humans," it said in perfect English. "I am Dr. Keyleth of the Thoraxian Science Council. I will be your guide." The second being was reptilian, covered in dark scales. It stood over 7 feet tall with yellow eyes that never blinked. "Commander Vorthak," it introduced itself. "Station security." The third was the strangest. It looked almost like smoke given shape, constantly shifting and changing. "I am Whisper of Winds," it said in a voice like distant thunder. "I speak for the Council." Jiwon tried not to stare. These were the first aliens she had ever seen in person. They were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Dr. Keyleth led them through corridors that curved in impossible ways. The walls showed pictures of alien worlds. Some had purple skies, others had rings like Saturn. A few looked like they were made entirely of ice. "Your rooms are prepared," Dr. Keyleth explained. "Tomorrow, we will show you the research facilities. You will find our collection most impressive." They passed other beings in the corridors. Some walked on 4 legs, others floated without touching the ground. A few looked almost human but had skin that glowed with inner light. Jiwon noticed something strange. Every alien they passed would look at the humans, then quickly look away. Some moved to the far side of the corridor. Others stopped talking until the humans had passed. "Are they afraid of us?" she whispered to Minho. Minho had noticed it too. His trained eyes missed nothing. Maybe, or maybe they're just being polite. But Jiwon didn't think it was politeness. There was something else in their body language, something that made her uncomfortable. They reached the residential section. Their rooms were simple but comfortable. Human-sized furniture had been brought in specially for them. "Rest well," Dr. Keyleth said. "Tomorrow will be a big day." That evening, the humans gathered in Jiwon's room. The team was small, just 5 people representing all of humanity. Did anyone else notice how the aliens acted around us? Asked Hyun-woo, the evolutionary biologist. They seemed nervous, agreed Soman, their xenopsychologist. Dr. Chen nodded. It's natural. We're new here. They don't know what to expect from us. But Minho stood by the window looking out at the alien ships. I've seen that look before, he said quietly. In war zones. That's not curiosity or nervousness. What is it then? Ji-won asked. Minho turned to face them. His expression was serious. That's fear. The next morning, they went to the research center. Dr. Keyleth was excited to show them around. We have collected the apex predators from over 300 worlds, he said proudly. Each one represents the pinnacle of evolution on their planet, the ultimate hunters. The research center was enormous. Hundreds of enclosures held creatures beyond imagination. In one, a thing like a metal spider moved on legs sharp as swords. In another, something that looked like living shadow paced back and forth. The Vex Hunters, Dr. Khalith explained, pointing to creatures made of crystal. They can slice through solid rock with their claws. Nothing on their world can escape them. In the next enclosure, dragon-like beings with scales that glowed like fire rested on massive perches. The Korvac dragons. They can breathe plasma hot enough to melt steel. On their world, they rule the skies. Ji-won was amazed. Each creature was perfect in its own way, built for hunting, designed by evolution to be unstoppable. Then something strange happened. As the human group moved through the center, the creatures began to react. The metal spiders pressed themselves against the far walls of their enclosures. The shadow beings cowered in corners. The crystal hunters made high-pitched sounds like glass breaking. What's wrong with them? Dr. Chen asked. Dr. Keyleth looked confused. His multiple eyes clicked as they moved. I don't know. They've never acted like this before. The reactions got worse as they continued. Every single predator showed the same behavior. Fear. Pure, absolute fear. Commander Vorthak arrived, his scales dark with concern. We're getting stress readings from every enclosure. Something is terrifying them. But what? Dr. Keyleth asked. Nothing has changed except... His eyes focused on the humans. Ji-won felt a chill run down her spine. She approached one of the Vex Hunter enclosures. The crystal creature was pressed against the back wall, shaking. It's okay, she said softly. We won't hurt you. She looked directly into the creature's faceted eyes. The moment their gazes met, the Vex Hunter let out a scream like breaking glass. It collapsed, all its crystal limbs folding beneath it. Other creatures throughout the center began to panic. Roars, screams, and sounds that had no human words filled the air. Then something impossible happened. The collapsed Vex Hunter lifted its crystalline head. Its voice entered Ji-won's mind, not through her ears, but directly into her thoughts. Why? It whispered in terror. Why do you wear the face of the endless hunt? Ji-won stepped back, her heart pounding. Around the research center, alarms began to sound as every apex predator from every world reacted to the presence of humanity with the same response. Terror. 3 days had passed since the incident at the research center. Ji-won sat in the observation lab staring at data that made no sense. Every test showed the same results. The apex predators were afraid of humans. Not just afraid, they were terrified. Look, at these brain scans, Hyun-woo said, pointing at the holographic display floating above their table. When the Korvac dragons see us, their brain patterns change completely. The parts that control hunting behavior shut down. The parts that control fear light up like stars. Someone nodded from her workstation. It's the same with every species. I've never seen anything like it. These are creatures that have never known fear in their entire evolution. But when they see us, they become prey animals, Jiwan finished. The three humans had been working together to understand what happened. Dr. Chen had ordered them to find answers quickly. The alien scientists were getting nervous. Commander Vorthak had started posting extra guards around the human quarters. I ran another test yesterday, Jiwan said. I wore a reflective visor that covered my eyes completely. The Vex hunter stayed calm. But the moment I took it off and looked at them, instant panic, Hyunwoo said. So it's specifically our eyes that trigger the response. Minho entered the lab carrying a food tray. He had been spending most of his time in the security center watching the surveillance feeds. Any progress? He asked, setting down the tray. Some, Soman said. We know it's eye contact that causes the fear response, but we don't know why. Minho sat down and pulled up his own data on a tablet. I've been studying the security footage from the first day. Watch this. The holographic display changed to show surveillance video from the research center. The humans walked through the corridor and Minho slowed the playback. Look at the timestamp here, he said, pointing. The creatures start reacting 3 seconds before we even enter their line of sight. That's impossible, Hyunwoo said. Is it? What if they can sense us coming, smell us, hear us, something we don't understand? Jiwan studied the footage carefully. Play it again, but focus on that Korvac dragon in Enclosure 7. Minho replayed the section. The dragon was resting peacefully on its perch. Then suddenly, its head snapped up. Its eyes went wide. It began to back away from the front of the enclosure, even though the humans were still around the corner. It's like it recognized something, Jiwan whispered. That afternoon, Dr. Keyleth arranged a controlled test. One Korvac dragon would be brought to a special observation chamber. The humans would interact with it under carefully monitored conditions. The bear dragon was magnificent. Its scales shifted from deep red to gold as it moved. When it breathed, small flames flickered around its nostrils. On its home world, nothing could challenge it. Remember, Dr. Keyleth said through the intercom, this creature has lived for over 200 years. It has never shown fear of anything. Jiwan approached the transparent barrier that separated her from the dragon. The moment the creature saw her face, it recoiled. Its scales turned pale, almost white. I'm not going to hurt you, Jiwan said softly. The dragon's massive head tilted. Its ancient eyes studied her face. Then it spoke, its voice deep and rumbling. Your scent, it said in heavily accented galactic standard. Your shape. But most of all, your eyes. What about my eyes? They are the eyes of the long pursuit, the eyes that follow forever, the eyes that never stop hunting. Jiwan felt her skin crawl. I don't understand. The dragon moved closer to the barrier, but kept its body low, submissive. My grandmother's grandmother told stories. Old stories. Stories from the time before we flew between stars. What kind of stories? Stories of the tireless ones. Creatures that looked like you. That hunted like nothing else in the universe. They did not hunt for food. They did not hunt for territory. They hunted because that was their nature. Hyunwoo leaned forward. What happened to these tireless ones? They disappeared, vanished from our world. My people thought they were just legends. But when I look into your eyes, the dragon shuddered. I remember what my species forgot. I remember why we learned to fear the ground. After the session, the human team gathered in their lab. The implications were staggering. If what the dragon said is true, Soman said, then humans or human-like beings visited their world thousands of years ago. But that's impossible, Doctor, Chen said over the intercom from his meeting with the station commanders. Humans have never left Earth before now. Hyunwoo pulled up evolutionary data on his screen. What if we're wrong about that? What if humans did leave Earth, but so long ago that we forgot? That would mean, Jiwon started, then stopped. The thought was too strange to voice. What? Minho asked. That would mean every species in the galaxy has met humans before. And they all learned to fear us. That evening, Jiwon couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the dragon's words. The eyes that follow forever. The eyes that never stop hunting. She went to the observation deck that looked out into space. Through the transparent wall, she could see alien ships moving between the stars. Each one carried a species that evolution had turned into a perfect predator, and every one of them was afraid of humans. Minho found her there an hour later. Can't sleep either? He asked. I keep thinking about what the dragon said. About the long pursuit. Minho stood beside her looking out at the stars. I've been thinking about it too. And I realized something. What? Humans are persistence hunters. On Earth, we didn't hunt by being faster or stronger than our prey. We hunted by never giving up. We would follow herds for days, weeks, until they collapsed from exhaustion. Jiwon nodded. Marathon runners, ultra-marathon runners. We're the only species on Earth that can run for hours without stopping. What if that's not normal? Minho asked. What if that ability is so unusual, so terrifying to other species that they evolved fear responses to it? But for that to happen, they would have had to encounter persistence hunters before, many times. Enough times for the fear to become genetic. They stood in silence, watching the alien ships, each one fleeing from the station now that humans were aboard. Jiwon, Minho said quietly, what if we're not making first contact? What do you mean? What if we're making second contact, or third, or 100th? The thought sent a chill through her. You think humans have been here before? I think humans have been everywhere before. The next morning brought disturbing news. Doctor, Chen called an emergency meeting. His face was pale when he appeared on the holographic display. I've been in contact with Earth, he said. I asked them to search the historical archives for any reference to space travel in ancient times. And, Soman asked, they found things. Cave paintings showing humans with spears hunting creatures that don't exist on Earth. Stone carvings depicting humans in what look like spacesuits. Legends from dozens of cultures about ancestors who came from the stars. Hyunwoo leaned back in his chair. How old are these artifacts? The oldest ones are 50,000 years old. But here's the strange part. When Earth researchers started looking for similar artifacts in other locations, they found them everywhere. Every continent, every ancient civilization, all showing the same thing. Which is? Jiwon asked, though she was afraid to hear the answer. Humans hunting alien creatures, humans traveling between worlds, and always, humans with spears and primitive weapons pursuing things that could kill them easily. If those things had been willing to fight. The implication hung in the air like smoke. Dr. Chen, Minho said slowly, are you saying that humans have been spacefaring for 50,000 years? I'm saying the evidence suggests humans have been hunting across the galaxy for much longer than we thought possible, and every species we've met remembers us. That night, alone in her quarters, Ji-won stared at her reflection in the mirror. She looked at her own eyes, dark, human eyes that seemed perfectly normal to her. But now she wondered what other species saw when they looked into them. What memories did her eyes trigger in creatures whose ancestors had learned to run from the sight of them? Outside her window, another alien ship departed the station, fleeing into the darkness between stars. Dae-hyun arrived on the station 3 weeks after the first incident. He was a human archaeologist who specialized in ancient alien civilizations. The Galactic Council had given him special permission to access their deepest archives, records that went back millions of years. I've read your reports, he told the team as they sat in the lab. If what you've discovered is true, then everything we know about human history is wrong. Ji-won looked tired. She hadn't been sleeping well since the dragon encounter. The evidence is clear. Every apex predator species we've tested shows the same fear response to humans, and they all have stories about creatures like us. Stories from thousands of years ago, Hyun-woo added, before humans supposedly developed space travel. Dae-hyun nodded. That's why I'm here. The Council has agreed to let me search their historical archives. If humans really have been traveling through space for thousands of years, there should be records. Dr. Keyleth escorted them to the archives section. It was deep inside the station, behind multiple security barriers. The alien scientist seemed nervous. These records are very old, he explained. Some date back to the beginning of recorded galactic history. We don't usually allow access to non-council species. The archive chamber was enormous. Crystalline storage devices lined the walls from floor to ceiling. Each one contained the collected knowledge of extinct civilizations. Where do we start? Somin asked. With the oldest records, Dae-hyun said. If humans have been here before, the oldest civilizations would have encountered them first. Yuna, a human linguist who had arrived with Dae-hyun, began working with the translation systems. Her job was to convert ancient alien languages into something humans could understand. The first records they found were from a species called the Korthak. They had died out 20,000 years ago, but their crystal memory banks still contained their history. Listen to this, Yuna said, reading from the translated text. The Skywalkers came to our world when the Red Star was young. They walked on 2 legs like us, but their eyes held the endless hunt. They carried crude spears, but they chased our greatest hunters until even the mighty Korthak fled to the mountains. Skywalkers, Minho repeated. Humans. It gets worse, Yuna continued. They did not hunt for food or territory. They hunted, because hunting was their nature. Our strongest warriors could not stand against them, not because they were stronger, but because they never stopped. When a Korthak warrior would rest, the Skywalkers would continue. When we would sleep, they would track us through the night. In the end, we learned that the only escape was to flee to the stars. The team exchanged looks. It was exactly what they had feared. How old is this record? Dr. Chen asked through the communication link. Dae-hyun checked the dating information. 47,000 years old. They found more records. The Vexian crystal archives contained songs about 2 legs who run between the stars. The songs described creatures that matched human appearance perfectly. Ancient Skarn cave paintings showed bipedal figures with spears, pursuing Skarn ancestors across frozen wastelands. The paintings were over 100,000 years old. "This is impossible," Dr. Chen said. "Humans didn't even exist 100,000 years ago?" "Maybe we did," Hyunwoo said quietly. "Maybe everything we think we know about human evolution is wrong." As they dug deeper into the archives, a pattern emerged. Dozens of species had records of human encounters. The descriptions were always the same: bipedal creatures with forward-facing eyes who hunted with primitive weapons but never gave up the chase. "Look at this," Yuna said, pulling up another record. "This is from a species called the Geltari. They went extinct 200,000 years ago." The Geltari record was particularly detailed. It described humans arriving on their world in crude ships made of metal and stone. The humans had no advanced technology, but they had something else. "They had the sight of the hunt," Yuna read. "Eyes that could track prey across any distance, through any terrain. They could smell fear from miles away. They could hear heartbeats in the silence. And once they began to chase, they never stopped." Salmon leaned forward. "That's not normal. Human behavior." "Isn't it?" Minho asked. "Think about human persistence hunting on Earth. We can track animals for days without losing the trail. We can run for hours without stopping. We can go without food or water longer than most species. But these records describe abilities that go beyond that," Juwan said. "Tracking across space? Hearing heartbeats from miles away?" Dae-hyun had been quiet, studying the records. Now he spoke up. "What if humans weren't originally from Earth?" The lab fell silent. "Think about it," he continued. "Earth is the only planet we know of where humans exist, but these records show humans on dozens of worlds, hundreds of thousands of years ago. What if Earth isn't our home world? What if it's just the most recent planet we inhabited?" "That would mean," Salmon started. "That would mean humans are an interstellar species that somehow lost the knowledge of space travel," Hyunwoo finished. That night, Ji-won began having strange dreams. She was running through alien landscapes, pursuing creatures she had never seen before. In the dreams, she could smell their fear from miles away. She could hear their hearts beating fast with terror, and she knew with absolute certainty that they could never escape her. She woke up with the taste of the hunt in her mouth. "I think something is happening to us," she told the others the next morning. "Since we've been on this station, since we learned about our history, I've been having dreams." "What kind of dreams?" Somin asked. "Hunting dreams. I'm chasing aliens across their worlds. And in the dreams, I have abilities I don't have in real life." Minho nodded slowly. "I've been having them too. Dreams where I can track scents through space, where I can run for days without getting tired. It's like the knowledge is awakening something in us," Hyunwoo said. Their conversation was interrupted by Dr. Khalith. The alien scientist looked frightened. "You must come quickly," he said. "We've found something in the deepest archives. Something that changes everything." He led them to a restricted section of the archives that required special permission to enter. Inside was a single crystalline storage device, larger than the others and much older. "This contains the records of the Builders," Dr. Keyleth explained. "They were the first spacefaring civilization in the galaxy. They existed over 1,000,000 years ago." Yuna connected to the storage device with trembling hands. The translation system struggled with the ancient language, but finally text began to appear. We created them to solve the predator problem, she read. The galaxy was overrun with apex predators that threatened the development of intelligent life. We needed something that could hunt the hunters, something that would never give up, never stop, never show mercy. The room was completely silent. We called them the Endless Hunt. We gave them human form because it was efficient. 2 legs for running, forward-facing eyes for tracking, hands for making tools. We programmed them with the deepest hunting instincts we could design. Jiwon felt sick. We're not a natural species. The Endless Hunt was perfect. They hunted the apex predators from world to world, system to system. The galaxy became safe for intelligent life to develop. But there was a problem we had not foreseen. What problem? Minho asked, though his voice suggested he already knew. The Endless Hunt could not be stopped. We created them to hunt apex predators, but once the apex predators were gone, they turned to hunting us. We tried to deactivate them, but they hunted us to extinction. The last of our kind sealed them on a world at the edge of the galaxy, hoping they would remain there forever. The storage device flickered and displayed a star map. It showed the location of the prison world where humans had been contained. The location was Earth. We're not explorers making first contact, Daehyun whispered. We're escaped prisoners returning to the galaxy we once terrorized. Dr. Khalith's multiple eyes were wide with fear. The records say the Endless Hunt would remain dormant as long as they stayed on their prison world, but if they ever returned to space, the programming would reactivate, Jiwon finished. As if responding to her words, alarms began sounding throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed red. What's happening? Someone asked. Commander Vorthak's voice came over the intercom, heavy with fear. Long-range sensors have detected ships approaching the station, ancient human ships, carrying what appear to be more humans. But these humans, they're different. On the display screens around the archive, images appeared of the approaching ships. They were crude but effective, made of metal and stone just like the ancient records described. And aboard them were humans whose eyes glowed with an inner fire. How many ships? Minho asked. Hundreds, Vorthak replied, and they're broadcasting a message. The message came through the speakers in a human voice, but it was cold and without emotion. The hunt resumes. Join us or become prey. Jiwon looked at her hands and realized they were shaking. Not with fear, but with excitement. Deep inside her mind, something ancient was waking up. Something that had been sleeping since humanity first arrived on Earth. Something that remembered what it meant to be the Endless Hunt. The Galactic Council meeting was chaos. Representatives from dozens of species shouted at each other in the Great Chamber. Some demanded that the humans be immediately expelled from the station. Others wanted them imprisoned. A few suggested something much worse. Seojun, the human diplomat, stood at the center of it all. He was trained for difficult negotiations, but nothing had prepared him for this. Every eye in the chamber looked at him with fear or hatred. The evidence is clear, Commander Vorthak announced to the assembly. Humans are not a new species making first contact. They are an ancient plague that has terrorized the galaxy for over 1 million years. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Representatives waved tentacles, claws, and appendages that humans had no names for. The Builder's records prove it, Dr. Kalith added, his insect-like form clicking nervously. Humans were created as biological weapons. They systematically hunted apex predators to extinction on world after world. Seojin tried to speak, but his voice was drowned out by the noise. Finally, Whisper of Winds raised a smoky appendage, and silence fell. "Speak, human," the council representative said. "Defend your species if you can." "We didn't know," Seojin said. "The humans on Earth have no memory of this ancient history. We thought we were making first contact, just like you did." "Ignorance is not a defense," hissed a serpentine delegate from the Naga systems. "Your ships approach our station even now, ships full of humans who clearly remember what they are." On the massive display screen, images showed the approaching human fleet. The ships were ancient but functional. Crude metal hulls powered by fusion drives that should have been impossible to build without advanced technology. "How do they have? Spaceships?" asked a crystalline being from the Vex worlds. "The records say humans were imprisoned on a single world." Dr. Kalith consulted his datapad. "Our analysis suggests these ships were built recently, but using ancient designs stored in human genetic memory. It appears that returning to space has triggered dormant programming in the human genome." Meanwhile, back in the research lab, the Yotze human team was experiencing the activation of that programming firsthand. Jiwon stared at her reflection in the darkened window. Her eyes seemed different somehow, sharper. When she focused on distant objects, she could see details that should have been impossible to make out. "I can smell them," Minho said from across the room. He was standing perfectly still, his head tilted slightly. "Every alien on this station, I can tell them apart by scent alone." Hyunwoo was studying biological readouts on his computer. "Our metabolisms are changing. Heart rate, breathing, hormone production. Our bodies are adapting for extended pursuit." "Extended pursuit of what?" Soman asked, though she already knew the answer. "Anything that runs," Minho replied. The changes weren't just physical. All of them were experiencing mental alterations as well. Knowledge they had never learned was appearing in their minds. Techniques for tracking prey across different types of terrain, ways to read fear scent in alien biochemistry, methods for pursuing targets for weeks without rest. "This is what we were designed for," Jiwon said quietly. "This is what the builders programmed into us." Yuna looked up from the translation computer where she was still studying ancient records. "I found something else. Records from civilizations that survived encounters with humans." "How did they survive?" Hyunwoo asked. "They didn't fight. They ran. They abandoned their homeworlds and fled to the edges of the galaxy. Some even left the galaxy entirely, traveling to the empty void between star systems. And that worked? For a while. But the records show that humans eventually followed them, even into the void between galaxies. The implications were terrifying. Humans weren't just hunters. They were pursuit predators on a galactic scale. Back in the council chamber, the debate had turned ugly. Several species were demanding immediate military action against the approaching human fleet. "Their ships are primitive," argued General Thextar of the warrior caste. "Our weapons could destroy them easily." "Violence will only make them more dangerous," warned Elder Sooth of the peaceful worlds. "The records show that humans become more deadly when threatened." "Then what do you suggest?" Commander Vorthak asked. "Let them dock? Allow them to board the station?" "We could evacuate," suggested Dr. Keyleth. "Abandon the station and flee to safe distance." "There is no safe distance," said a new voice. Everyone turned to look at the speaker. It was one of the Korvac dragons, the same one that had spoken to Jiwon days earlier. The ancient creature had been given special permission to address the council. My people have the longest memories of any species, the dragon continued. We remember the time before the Endless. Hunt was imprisoned. When they pursued us across our world, we fled to the mountains. They followed. We fled to the deepest caves. They followed. We fled to the coldest peaks, where no other creature could survive. They followed. The dragon's scales shifted to pale, colors of fear. Distance means nothing to them. Barriers mean nothing. They will follow their prey to the end of the universe if necessary. What are you saying? Seogen asked. I am saying that running is pointless. Once the endless hunt has seen you, escape is impossible. The chamber fell silent. Outside the great windows, the approaching human ships grew larger. In the research lab, the human team was dealing with their own crisis. The genetic programming was accelerating. What had started as strange dreams and enhanced senses was becoming something much more intense. I can hear their hearts beating, Jiwon whispered. She was standing by the window, staring out at the alien ships docked around. The station. All of them. Thousands of aliens on this station, and I can hear every heartbeat. The fear scent is strongest near the council chamber, Minho reported. They're terrified. Good, said a voice that didn't sound quite like Hyunwoo anymore. Fear makes the hunt more exciting. Soman backed away from him. Hyunwoo, that's not you talking, isn't it? He turned to look at her, and his eyes held something predatory. This is what we are, Soman. This is what we were made to be. The perfect hunters. The transformation was happening to all of them, but at different rates. Some fought against it. Others embraced it. We have to resist this, Jiwon said, struggling to maintain her human perspective. We're not just hunters. We're scientists, diplomats, people with families back on Earth. Earth, Minho said with a laugh that sounded nothing like his normal laugh. Our prison world, the place where they locked us away to keep the galaxy safe. Through the station's communication system came an announcement from Commander Vorthak. The human fleet has docked. Armed boarding parties are preparing to enter the station. But these weren't the humans from Earth. These were the endless hunt, awakened and remembering their purpose. Jiwon watched through the window as the boarding parties moved through the station corridors. They looked human, but their movements were wrong. Too fluid, too focused. They moved like predators who had been hunting for 1,000,000 years. We have a choice, she said to her team. We can join them, or we can try to stop them. Stop them? Hyunwoo asked. We are them. This programming is in all of us. Some of us are stronger than others, Soman said. She was fighting hard against the changes happening in her mind. Some of us can resist. Minho walked to the weapon locker that every research lab maintained for emergencies. He opened it and looked at the contents. Not weapons designed for fighting, other humans, but tools that could be adapted for hunting. The question is, he said, picking up a metal rod that could serve as a spear, do we hunt the aliens, or do we hunt our own kind? The choice was interrupted by the arrival of the boarding party. The door to their lab opened, and 3 humans entered. But these humans were changed. Their eyes glowed with inner fire. Their movements were perfectly coordinated. When they spoke, their voices held the cold certainty of perfect predators. Join us, the leader said. The hunt begins again. The galaxy has grown soft in our absence. It will be easy prey. And if we refuse? Jiwon asked. The leader smiled, and it was not a human smile. Then you become prey as well. The ancient programming in Jiwon's mind screamed at her to submit, to join the hunt, to embrace what she had been designed to be. But somewhere deep inside, the human part of her, the part that had grown up on Earth, that had learned to love and laugh and dream, fought back. "I refuse," she said. The boarding party leader tilted his head, studying her like a cat studies a mouse. "Interesting," he said. "It has been a long time since we encountered humans who still fought their nature. This will make the hunt more challenging." He gestured to his companions. "Kill the aliens! Hunt the resistors! The galaxy will remember why they learned to fear the dark between stars." As the endless hunt spread throughout the station, Ji-won realized that humanity's return to space had triggered something that could not be stopped. The apex predators of the galaxy had good reason to fear human eyes. They were the eyes of something that had been created to hunt everything else in the universe. And now it was awake. The truth hit Ji-won like a physical blow. She stood in the abandoned research center, surrounded by empty enclosures that had once held the galaxy's apex predators. Every creature had been evacuated or had fled when the endless hunt boarding. Parties arrived. "We were never meant to stop," she whispered to herself, staring at the builder records still displayed on her tablet. "The builders created us to hunt apex predators, but they made one fatal mistake." Hyunwoo approached from behind, his eyes still glowing with the hunt fire. Half of their team had joined the awakened humans. The other half was in hiding throughout the station. "What mistake?" he asked. "They made us too perfect. They programmed us to hunt anything that showed predator behavior. But intelligence, sapience, the ability to create technology, those are all predator traits." The implications were staggering. Humans hadn't been created just to hunt animals. They had been created to hunt any species that could threaten the Builders' vision of a peaceful galaxy. "The Builders thought they could control us," Ji-won continued. "But you can't control the perfect hunter. Eventually, we hunted them too." Through the station's windows, she could see human ships spreading out across the local star system. Not just the crude vessels that had arrived first, but new ships. The awakened humans were building more, using knowledge that had been locked away in their genetic memory for millions of years. Salmon's voice came through the emergency communication channel. She was hiding in the deep archives with Dr. Keyleth and a few other alien survivors. "Ji-won, the patterns are spreading. The human ships aren't just staying here. They're heading to every inhabited system in this sector." "How many?" Ji-won asked. "Thousands. Maybe tens of thousands. And every ship carries awakened humans who remember what they were created to do." The scope of the disaster was beyond imagination. For 1,000,000 years, the galaxy had been safe from the endless hunt. Now they were returning to every world that had once fled from them. Minho's voice joined the conversation. He was leading a group of resistant humans who were trying to sabotage the hunt ships. "It's not just the awakened ones," he reported. "The programming is spreading to all humans. Everyone who comes into contact with the awakened humans starts to change." "Even the humans back on Earth?" Ji-won asked. "Especially them? The moment the first hunt ship entered space, something activated in every human on Earth. Most don't understand what's happening to them yet, but they're starting to dream of the hunt." Ji-won closed her eyes. She could feel it herself, the pull of the ancient programming. It whispered to her constantly now, telling her to abandon her human emotions and embrace her true nature as the galaxy's apex predator. "There has to be a way to stop this," she said. "Why would we want to stop it?" Hyunwoo asked. His transformation was nearly complete now. "This is what we are, Ji-won. This is what we were made to be." We're more than just weapons. We grew beyond our programming. On Earth, humans learned to love, to create art, to explore for the sake of knowledge rather than hunting. Earth was a prison, Hyunwoo replied coldly. A place where we were trapped and forced to suppress our true nature. Now, we're free. The philosophical debate was interrupted by an emergency broadcast from the Galactic Council. Whisper of Winds appeared on every screen throughout the station. This is an emergency declaration to all species in the galaxy, the smoky being announced. The endless hunt has awakened. Ancient protocols are now in effect. All civilizations must implement immediate evacuation procedures. The broadcast showed star maps indicating safe zones at the edge of the galaxy. But even as Ji-won watched, those safe zones were shrinking as human ships spread out across space. The Council is recommending total galactic evacuation, Whisper of Winds continued. All intelligent species should prepare for exodus to the void between galaxies. Ji-won realized what this meant. The galaxy's response to humanity's awakening was the same as it had been 1,000,000 years ago. Run as far and as fast as possible. They're going to abandon the entire galaxy to us, she said. Dr. Keyleth's voice came through the communication system from his hiding place. It is the only way. The records show that the endless hunt cannot be reasoned with, cannot be defeated, cannot be stopped. The only survival strategy is distance. But for how long? Someone asked. The records also show that humans eventually followed the fleeing species even into the void. Perhaps this time will be different, Dr. Keyleth said, hopefully. Perhaps some of you will resist the programming long enough to find a solution. Ji-won looked around the empty research center. The apex predators were gone, but their fear lingered in the air like a scent. For the first time, she truly understood what the galaxy saw when they looked at humans. They saw the end of everything they had built. I'm going to try something, she announced. What? Minho asked from his sabotage mission. I'm going to the quantum communication array. I'm going to send a message to every corner of the galaxy. What kind of message? Ji-won was already moving toward the communication center. A warning, but not the kind they expect. The station's quantum array was powerful enough to broadcast to every inhabited world simultaneously. Ji-won activated it and began recording her message. This is Dr. Ji-won of Earth, speaking to every intelligent species in the galaxy. You know what we are now. You know what we were created to do. But I want you to know something else. She paused, gathering her thoughts. We are not the same creatures that the builders created. For 1,000,000 years on Earth, we evolved beyond our programming. We learned to hunt for knowledge instead of prey. We learned to pursue beauty, truth, and understanding instead of fear. Behind her, she could hear the sound of awakened humans approaching the communication center. Some of us remember what we were meant to be, and some of us choose to be something different. To any humans who can still hear their own voices over the programming, fight it. Remember that you are more than weapons. Remember that you chose to reach for the stars not to hunt, but to explore. The doors to the communication center opened. The leader of the boarding party entered, flanked by a dozen awakened humans. Their eyes burned with hunt fire. To every fleeing species, Ji-won continued, not stopping her broadcast, know that there are humans who will fight against what we were created to be. We cannot promise to win, but we will try. The boarding party leader approached the communication console. Enough, he said. Ji-won looked directly into the camera. And to the awakened humans spreading across the galaxy, remember that the greatest hunt is not the pursuit of prey that runs from you. The greatest hunt is the pursuit of something better than what you were created to be. The leader reached for the communication controls, but Ji-Wan was faster. She activated the station's emergency beacon, sending her message to every quantum relay in the galaxy. "My name is Dr. Ji-Wan of Earth," she said as the leader's hand closed around her throat. "And I choose to be human." The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, her message reached millions of worlds. Some species heard it and fled even faster. Others heard it and wondered if perhaps there was hope. On Earth, humans beginning to change heard her words, and some fought harder against the ancient programming awakening in their minds. In the void between galaxies, fleeing civilizations debated whether humans could truly evolve beyond their created purpose. And throughout space, the endless hunt continued its spread, ship by ship, world by world, awakening the galaxy's oldest nightmare. But now, for the first time in a million years, that nightmare was opposed not by alien species, but by humans themselves, the created fighting their creator's purpose, the hunters hunting their own nature. In the empty research center where it all began, the Korvac dragon's words echoed, "Why do you wear the face of the endless hunt?" The answer was both simple and complex. Humans wore that face because it was what they had been created to be, but some of them were choosing to wear it differently, to be hunters of knowledge instead of hunters of prey, to pursue understanding instead of fear. Whether that choice would be enough to save the galaxy remained to be seen. The hunt was eternal. But perhaps, for the first time, so was the resistance to it. In her final moments of consciousness, as the ancient programming finally overwhelmed her human mind, Ji-Wan smiled. She had planted a seed of doubt in the perfect certainty of the endless hunt. Sometimes that was enough. The galaxy would remember her message long after it forgot the names of the worlds that fell to humanity's return. And perhaps someday, that memory would grow into something that could challenge the hunt itself. The apex predators of every world had been right to fear human eyes, but they had seen only half the truth. Human eyes held the endless hunt. But they also held the endless hope, and hope, unlike prey, could never truly be caught.